walking, even chewing and swallowing water. He would choke on it. And his walking was just difficult and labored. His gaze that he looked at, it was always kind of like looking up, his head tilted up. And that brilliant mind was starting to waste away. So we take him to the Barrows Neurologic Institute in Arizona, and there they diagnose him with Parkinsonism, and they try him on some Parkinson's drugs, and they don't work. And he gets worse, and eventually now, this is obviously several years later, but he looks like this. Blank stare, blank stare. And at that point, we take him to the Mayo Clinic, and at the Mayo Clinic, they label him with progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP. It's just another label. Medical doctors are really good at labels. This person has this person has this person has this. And at the Mayo Clinic, they say, we have no idea why your father's sick. We have no idea why. And unfortunately, we've got no treatment. And we do know that the life expectancy of someone like your father, once they're diagnosed, is 3 years. And my father died a tortuous and cruel death over 3 years that nobody would ever deserve. And the Mayo Clinic has no idea why. But my father liked to drink this neurotoxin that Dr. Klum was talking about before, aspartame, acesulfame. My father was an alcohol drinker, like I said. He was the life of the party. There's no sob story about his alcohol drinking, except for he's dead. That's the sob story. Living in Chicago, deep dish pizza, Italian beef sandwiches, not too different from living in the New York area. All the different ethnic foods, MSG, Sunday night Chinese food in 60 minutes. Remember those days, Denise? There you go. That's how we grew up. And the Mayo Clinic has no idea why. He also took this known neurotoxin, statin drugs, and I got presentations and I give to medical groups and medical doctors and even cardiologists to show them how this particular drug liquefies that brain. He took his aspirin like a good cardiologist did. He took antibiotics when needed. When we would go on these fancy vacations to Mexico, he would take antibiotics with, and at the first sign of anything, he would be popping antibiotics, on us. There's even a prescription type of ibuprofen called ketoprofen that is licensed and FDA approved for the treatment of sunburn, and we took that. Now when you go to a restaurant in Mexico and on the menu is Cipro as an antibiotic, you're in a dangerous restaurant, right? And that's what we took. And then of course my father was working in this environment. The hospital, the sickest, most polluted, toxic place in the entire world. It's disgusting. Why anybody would choose to deliver in there versus their home, I don't understand it. I don't understand it anymore. But I'll talk about that more in a little bit. And then of course on the right, he's getting blasted with radiation. These cardiologists here, they're in the cardiac catheterization lab. They're wearing lead aprons. What's protecting their face? What's protecting their brain? And the Mayo Clinic has no idea why my father was sick. Now there's somebody else in this story who is going down the exact same path. And that is me. Circa 2003 at Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany. So if you're going to go off the deep end, that's the place to do it, let me tell you. Let me tell you. I was drinking the drink, eating the food, cardiologist in training, not sleeping, not getting sunshine, under stress. The only thing I wasn't doing is I wasn't taking that pharmaceutical. I wasn't taking that brain statin drug, neurotoxin. I was on that same path of disaster until I met the woman on the screen. And the woman on the screen is a doctor of chiropractic. And she saved my life. She saved my life. She'll say that chiropractic saved my life. I'll say, okay, it's a combination of both. We'll give everybody credit here. That saved my life. She tells me, your profession is worthless. She tells me that the pharmaceuticals are killing people, that the surgeries are useless and dangerous, and it's all preventable. She tells me all these things. She said, all your entire medical training was worthless. And this is the first date. This is the first date she says this. But I listened. I listened, number one, because she's smoking hot. And number two, and she still is. Number two, it made perfect sense. I saw the frustration in my medical career as a cardiologist, and I saw what was happening to my father. And the Mayo Clinic has no answers, and here comes the doctor of chiropractic. And she tells me it's the food, it's the sleep, it's the lack of sun, it was the radiation, it was the pharmaceuticals. She tells me all the reasons why my father is sick, the doctor of chiropractic. And the hotshot geniuses at the Mayo, they don't know. So at that point, I start to change my life. I start to change my practice. I left the largest group in the state of Arizona after being there for 10 years. It took me a little time to get ready to leave. But I left, opened up my own practice, Wolfson Integrative Cardiology, and now we work together as the doctors Wolfson. Every patient in my practice has to be under chiropractic care. If they're not, after the third visit, and when I ask them who their chiropractor is, if they don't have a response, then I politely tell them they're no longer welcome in my practice. Because that's how my success is. My success is predicated on working with a team approach. And I told this story, of course, yesterday to the doctors that all were here. It's kind of funny when people come out to see me, and they say, well, of course everybody has to be under chiropractic care, so you can refer to your wife. And I say, no, actually, my wife is not going to see you as a patient. She sees a handful of pediatrics on a weekly basis. She's quite busy. We're good. We're not looking for her business, but there's plenty of amazing DCs out there. And that's one message, if I can get across to you today, once again, is to fire your pediatrician. And your pediatrician should be a doctor of chiropractic. I mean, I'm looking out at my buddy over there, Dr. Roger Sahari. His office is in Paramus. I've been there. It's a beautiful, beautiful office. Anybody who's anywhere near that vicinity, that man is worth the drive above and beyond chiropractic. And I know he's got a booth out here, so you can go out there and meet him and get your children. I mean, there's pregnant moms here in the audience, and I love these videos, whether it's Dr. Roger and some other, doctors that are posting about how they're adjusting babies that are fresh out of the womb. Because I don't really remember it too well, but that experience was probably pretty traumatic. Coming out, you gotta be adjusted, and you do that on a regular basis, and it's really just absolutely fantastic, to start them off on the right foot. So we share this message all over the world. We tell people all over the world. We speak. I don't just speak to obviously chiropractic societies. I speak paleo effects, the truth about cancer, medical doctors up in Toronto, International Society of Orthomolecular Medicine. I spoke at Autism One. We're getting this message out there to the world. But my favorite place to speak is, well, number one, up here on the stage, but number two, certainly, is on the internet. And the internet is the great equalizer. The internet is how we're going to educate the world, how we're going to change the world. The revolution's on. If they can topple governments in the Middle East, we can certainly make some major inroads to get people to understand our message and our truth. And that's what I'm going to push you on, is about speaking that truth. Without further ado, Dr. Heather Wolfson. Dr. Jack Wolfson is called a natural cardiologist.
As the children of Britain, this remarkable story spans children.
Chiropractic works make you every single day. create sleek-looking imagery, getting that out to the world, so to get people's interest. Obviously, there's so many different things that have our attention these days. So really trying to put together some just fantastic material to let people know that there is a better way to natural immunity. Because after all, what we are